Hey, what's going on, friends? This is Paul Hutchings. Hope you're having a great day. It is another great day to be alive. Hope you feel that way too. This is another episode, number 116, actually, of The Good Parts, a daily social media show where I go live once a day, Monday through Friday, to share one good part from my life and or business in an effort to help myself and others create more freedom, prosperity, happiness, joy, abundance, all the good things life has to offer. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you just a quick, cool little story that I picked up in some of my recent reading. I've actually been listening to the audiobook version of Elon Musk, the new biography written by Walter Isaacson. And one of the big reasons that I'm reading this book is, as I wrote in the description, for a long time, I've been inspired by the idea that, Wallace Wattles says in his book, The Science of Getting Rich, wealthy people think and act in certain ways. And I remember reading that way back in the day. I was actually living in a trailer house at the time. And I remember being inspired by that idea because I had this thought. And the thought was, okay, if wealthy people think in certain ways, I wonder if I started to learn some of the ways that wealthy people think, could I act like wealthy people acted? And if I thought and acted like wealthy people do, could that cause me to grow more wealth in my life? And so for 2 decades now, I've been a student of the thought patterns and the thinking patterns and the action patterns of successful people. And one of the books that you may or may not know that I'm a pretty big fan of, it's a book called the Think and Grow Rich, and then also The Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon Hill, in the first part of the 1900s, had the same question, like, well, how do wealthy people become the way that they are? How do they become wealthy? And he interviewed a lot of very successful people at the turn of the century. People like Henry Ford was one of the people that he studied and interviewed, and a whole bunch of others, and then produced these books. And I was just going to say, another reason that I like learning a little bit from Elon Musk is because for the longest time I've read about these people in history that did big things, like Henry Ford, kind of made the automobile proliferated throughout the world. It's kind of a big thing, right? And I would read about this character in history and others in this effort to understand how wealthy people think, and extracting these thought patterns and being inspired by them and thinking about them has all been really, really cool. And when Elon Musk came on the scene a number of years ago, I remember having the thought that, wow, this is like a Henry Ford that's alive today, or a Thomas Edison who's alive today. And I wonder if some of these things that I've learned in these books that I've studied from a century ago, I wonder if they're, true and relevant. Like, is this person, Elon Musk, who's right now the wealthiest person on the planet, is he emulating and or acting out and thinking in some of these ways in which I've learned about in books? And so anyway, that's kind of some of my interest in Elon Musk. And so I got this biography and I've been reading it. It's a great book. I've been enjoying it. A lot of cool little nuggets. And by the way, thanks for saying hello. Hey, Peter Tinsley, BAIE, Nick Romani, good to see you. Happy 117th. I appreciate that. Veronique says hello from Belgium. Hello to you. And Peter says, yes, train our thoughts. Yes, we can. Yes, I agree. Arnita says, good morning. How wealthy people think is a good thought. I think it's a good thought too. So thanks for that, Arnita. Okay, so let me just get into the story. So there's a story in the book where Elon Musk is meeting with bankers about a certain business deal. And one of the interesting things is there's the way the story goes down. Elon Musk has this choice to make, and there's like 3 different options. And so he turns to the bankers and he says, can you explain, the pros and the cons for each of these 3 options? And the bankers explain the pros and the cons, and he thinks about it, and then he picks one. And the interesting part about it is what the bankers said about that. So the bankers, they have all of these moments where they're in similar situations with different people, where people have choices to make. They're asking for money. They've got to pick, from different options. And here's what the bankers said, is they said, most people that they deal with, when you tell them when they ask, can you give me the pros and cons of these three options? Can you explain a little bit more? Which, by the way, in and of itself, I think is a trait of successful people, is they tend to want to get all of the details available before a decision is made, usually, as much as they can anyway. And so that's what Elon was doing, is he was, getting more information so he could compute and make a good decision. But here's what the banker said. The banker said that a lot of people will then ask the banker, what do you recommend? So they'll ask for the information. The bankers will give the information. They'll have these three choices. And then the person will turn back to the banker and say, well, what do you recommend? And the bankers thought it was interesting that Elon didn't do that. He just wanted to understand the choices, and then he made the decision himself. And the biography, Walter Isaacson, went on to elaborate a little bit on this particular story, and talk about how, Elon Musk is a guy who wants to make his own decisions. He does his own thinking, and then he makes his own decisions. In other words, he's not like asking everyone for their own opinions. And in my studies, it does seem like wealthy, successful people are that way. They get in the habit of deciding what it is that they want from life, and they get in the habit of seeking the right information. Napoleon Hill would call that accurate thought or accurate knowledge. Like, you want to gather whatever information you need to make the decision, make the best decision you can. But when you have the information, successful people, they make a decision. Whereas unsuccessful people, and what is unsuccessful? A lot of ways you can define success and not successful, but I guess we'll confine our discussion today maybe financially, like financially successful. Unfinancially successful, if that's a word, people usually will not make decisions. They'll waver, back and forth, willy-nilly. What do I want? I don't know. Oh, maybe I'd want this. Okay, now next decision comes. I don't know. I could go here, I could go there. Let me ask 50 different people for their opinions. And what a lot of people do, is they don't like making decisions. I don't know if you guys have noticed this before. Maybe within your family or your circle of friends. Classic example is going out to dinner with maybe your spouse. And I don't know if this ever happened to you. It's like, where do you want to go to dinner? I don't know. Where do you want to go? Well, where would you like to go? I want you to go the place that you want to go. I don't know. Where do you want to go? And then it kind of goes back and forth, right? And this can be a manifestation of a human being's inherent tendency to just not want to take the responsibility of deciding, making a decision. And so I thought this was just a cool story that kind of added another affirmative stamp on much of what I've read in the works of Napoleon Hill. He has a whole chapter in Think and Grow Rich on the power of decision, making decisions, quickly moving forward. That used to be an affirmation that I had. I make decisions swiftly. I make decisions and swiftly move forward. And as I found myself getting into that habit, like being a decision maker, making decisions, making things move, I started to notice that my life and my business started to experience a lot more success than it did when I was in a different space before, where I wasn't quite sure what to do. And I put off making those decisions. And I just thought of this other little story from the book. There's another little story where it was during the Model 3 production ramp. And if you've heard Elon talk at all, he calls this like a hell-filled experience in his career. He calls it production hell, where he was sleeping on the factory floor, working 24 hours a day. They had a lot of people on the factory floor trying to figure out how to scale this car up to a mass level. And this other story that is on decisions is there was this point where he was walking, he would get up in the morning and he would walk through the factory, and he would make decision after decision after decision after decision after decision. It's like 50 to 100 decisions that needed to be made. And one of the things that he said that I thought was interesting is he said, 20% of these decisions are going to be wrong, but if I don't make decisions, the company is dead. So even though he knew that a percentage of the decisions he was going to be making would be wrong, if he didn't make those decisions, the company would die. And so he would get up and just walk through the factory and analyze stuff, and decision after decision after decision after decision. And the story turned out well. They ended up scaling up the production and, getting the car out and saving the company, and continuing to create success. One last thing that I'll share on decisions is there was another point in the book where Elon said something about, so there was another decision that needed to be made. And there was going to be this long process of gathering all the necessary data to make the decision. And there was at one point in the book where he said, let's just do it. And if we fail, we'll gather information faster and we'll get the right answers faster than waiting months and months and months trying to analyze this to death. So while wealthy people do like to have the best information they can at their disposal when they make decisions, yes, that's ideal. Sometimes there's a trade-off between, if this is going to take me 6 months to research, whereas my other option would be take action now, take action now, take action now, and learn from the process. Wealthy people seem to be in favor of taking action now and picking up those lessons along the way. So I shared a few more stories from the biography than I had planned on doing, but all those little stories were kind of related to decision making. So I wanted to pass those along. And I'm going to jump to the comments. Thanks everyone for all the comments. Before I get to the comments, want to say I am Paul Hutchings. I do these episodes every day, Monday through Friday. So if you got value from this episode, want to learn more from me, I would love to encourage you to subscribe to me on whatever social media platform you're finding me on. And also, if you want to go the extra mile and make sure you get all of my content, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to my email list. My mission is freedom through principle-centered leadership. So I do a lot of content on wealth building, residual income, online business, copywriting, sales, leadership, motivation, basically anything that I can teach that I have experience in, that helped me to get to where I'm at, which is, I'm retired. I financially free in my early 40s. Of course, I still work, but I don't have to. So I've got a pretty good track record of being able to latch on to some of the best ideas that made a big difference for me. And so my mission is to continue to grab those ideas and teach them in a way that can inspire and empower as many people as I can to move closer to financial freedom, get to financial freedom, and beyond. And so a lot of what I write about on my email list revolves around that big, broad topic that sometimes has a lot of different skills and ideas required. So you can pick up a free gift there and subscribe to my email list. So, all right, shameless plug out of the way. I'm going to come back to the comments. Hey, Booker, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Booker, the Freedom Cooker, as I affectionately call him. Christy Hall says, I can never decide on dinner. Thank goodness Jim Hall always knows. That's great. Well, I'm glad you're not the only one. And thankfully, the fate of the free world and the fate of our freedom may not be hanging on whether or not we pick the right dinner. But it is like a good, kind of like thing to notice about yourself in certain aspects of your life. And then just kind of ask yourself, is this playing out in business, or in business, am I in the habit of being a decision maker, a mover? And as much as we can, I think we want to make decisions and move. Gregory Napier says, top of the morning, Paul. A lot of people just confused in their thoughts to make a decision. Yep. Very, very true. Nick Romani says, I believe that one major trait of wealthy people is they are not afraid of failure. Yes, bingo, exactly. They use failure as a learning experience. Wealthy people also don't hesitate to make a decision to go for it, period. Exactly. Well said, Nick. Gregory says, I'm always moving forward with my decision-making process. Awesome. I'm not surprised, Gregory. You're a successful man, and that makes sense. Veronique says, sometimes it is difficult to make your own decisions just because you need to discuss the decisions with family or spouse so that everyone can give their ideas on that. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's good to get feedback for sure, especially if you're making a decision that involves, a certain group of people. And also, sometimes it's good to get buy-in from people. So in asking for people's opinions, if they give good feedback and you can kind of make a mutual decision, then sometimes people take more ownership in those decisions, and that can be good for kind of like group decision making. However, I would always tell myself, be the one who can make a decision if no one else can make a decision. Be the one who can decide, be that person. Decisions don't have to be perfect. But one thing I've noticed about leadership is that one of the key responsibilities of a leader is to be a decision maker. Things will come up. People will bring situations. What do we do about this? What do we do about that? And you want to be the best you can be at gathering as much pertinent information as you can, as quickly as you can, and then make the decision. And sometimes those decisions are easy, and sometimes those decisions are a little bit more difficult. But indecision is not a good thing to do as a leader. Like you gotta make decisions and move, make decisions and move. Anyway, I appreciate that, Veronique. Janine says, good morning. I've learned being a widow, I have to make all decisions. I've made some bad mistakes, but after 12 years, I'm learning how to make better decisions. Well, kudos to you, Janine, for improving and being thrust into that role. It's a good thing. I think it's a way we can grow. Ashley Casper says, good morning, Paul. A great topic. I used to be stuck thinking that one decision was right and one was wrong. Once I let go of the idea of right or wrong, it became easier to make decisions, and I was able to relax and evaluate my options from a better space than I was before. Thank you for sharing your experience. I think that mirrors the experience of myself and probably a lot of people watching. So that's really helpful, Ashley. Veronique says, some people would call it impulsive. That is my experience from the past. Yeah, I think so. What would be the difference between impulsive and being a strong decision maker? I think impulsive this is just my take on it. Impulsive is just kind of like you're making whatever decisions on a whim, like something like some piece of information comes across your path and you're like, oh, that looks good. And then you go do that. Like, what should we do today? Oh, let's go do this. Let's go do that. Let's go to the other. There's no like clear focus as to your action plan or your future, just kind of like random actions here, there, and everywhere. That's what I would call impulsive. But decision-making is not impulsive. Decision-making, and the reason it's not impulsive, I would say, is because it's purpose-driven. So that's the first thing, is like, what is your purpose? And hopefully your decisions are being made in alignment with that purpose. That would be one distinction from being impulsive. And another one would be gathering the necessary data rather than just snapping to a decision. So, as a leader, we don't ever want to make snap decisions, snap judgments. If we need information, we want to gather the information first so we can make the best decision we can. And I think impulsive would be, you just pick and choose. And also, like, some decisions matter more than other decisions, right? So give that some thought as well. Like some decisions that we, like I was making my most valuable priority list today, and which is basically my to-do list. And one of the things I had on my to-do list was pull the weeds in front of the house. And I was looking at that and I was like, is that really like a valuable priority? Like, probably not. Like, it's something that needs to be done, but it's probably not something that should take up an hour of my workday. So I said, all right, well, I'm going to delegate that to my kids and maybe go help them later on tonight, but I'm not going to put that in my workday. So that's an example of a decision that doesn't have like a lot of weight with it. Like, do the weeds get pulled today? Do they not get pulled today? Probably not a big deal if they don't get pulled today, But if I'm working towards financial freedom, moving my business forward, yeah, that's essential. That must get done today. So decisions that revolve around, things that have a little more weight to them, like as Jim Rohn used to say, don't major in minor things. Learn to differentiate what's major versus what's minor, and fill your mind and your day with the major things. On my way to financial freedom, I will admit I was not the best handyman. There were things that went unfixed around my house. There were things that went uncleaned around my house. And why was that? Part of the reason was because, man, I had a goal to become financially free. And to me, those were the majors. So I filled most of my day with my majors, and I kind of pushed some of these other things, off to the side. Not saying don't clean your house, not saying don't fix your stuff, yeah, do that stuff. But the point is majors versus minors, majors versus minors. Peter says, love the analogy of Henry Ford to Elon. Yeah, I think it's pretty relevant, Jeff says, indecision is the thief of opportunity. I love that. And it's also a temporary form of insanity, as Napoleon Hill said. So if you want to be more sane, learn to make decisions. Don't fill your mind with indecision. Roni says, great advice, Paul. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Gio says, not making a decision keeps you stagnant. It's better to make it and be in motion. I agree with that, Gio. I would rather be moving. I would rather be moving than be 100% right in everything that I do and be sitting there thinking for a week whether or not, these are the right actions to take. David Twomey says, impulsive, shiny object, right? Yeah, that would be in the home business profession. Impulsive would be chasing shiny objects. A little ball bounces across your path. Like, I just joined this business. Guys, I'm committed. I believe in this vision. I love this community. I love these products. This is the path for me. And then 1 week later, boink, boink, boink. Ah, look at that, shiny. Run off and chase it. Impulsive, right? Not the same as making a strong decision as to where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. Thanks for that, David. Hermine says, hello from the Netherlands. Hello to the Netherlands. So that's it, guys. That's my live for today. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for all the contribution. I love the conversation. It kind of stimulates some fun thoughts and tangents and stuff. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in and commenting. And I want to encourage you to get out there, take action, make decisions, go for your dreams. And I'll be back here tomorrow on the next Good Parts episode. Take care and bye for now.